Good afternoon, Earthlings, and welcome to Uncommon Communion on this special Earth Day edition. Let us begin as we always begin, recognizing that we are always and everywhere on this planet, within this creation, in the holy presence of God and each other. Yes, it is Earth Day. And I don't know if you saw this in the coverage, but it is the 55th Earth Day. Now, I know that because it began in April of 1970, and I began, at least outside of the womb, in January of 1970. So it's always been super easy for me to measure the age of Earth Day by, well, my age. So I am coming to you on a beautiful afternoon. I hope that wherever you find yourself today, as you watch this, as you listen to this, it is as gorgeous outside as it is here in Columbus, Ohio. And I also hope that on this Earth Day, you celebrate in the best way possible by getting out and enjoying the earth, enjoying creation. I don't know if you notice the shirt, or as they call it in soccer world, the kit that I am wearing. I am a huge Columbus Crew fan, local hometown here. And 2 years ago, I think it was, the entire MLS Major League Soccer League decided that on Earth Day, they were going to all wear special jerseys. And it was actually quite creative and in some ways kind of confusing, because what they did was all of the away teams, if you were playing on the road, you had this background, which said end plastic waste and focused on ocean life with the blue, the black. And you had, of course, your team logo on it. If you were the home team, you had the blue version of this, kind of a teal version. So it's kind of the opposite colors. And what was funny about it was on Apple TV Plus, where all the MLS games are televised, sometimes they show like a whole bunch of multi-screens of different games, playing at the same time. And what was funny on that day is all the games looked alike, because you had one team in a uniform like this with the subtle differences of the front. And then you had the other team wearing the other jersey. So it was quite confusing to look around and see everybody. But it is Earth Day, a fun little way to celebrate with a global sport that everyone on this earth, pretty much everyone on this earth, plays: football or soccer. I want to thank you all for the feedback that I received yesterday with my post about my reflections on Pope Francis. And when I was teaching in Catholic high schools, and I wanted to add a little bit to that today, after which I want to kind of point your attention to a couple really good articles that I found on Pope Francis and his legacy. And then to close, I think very appropriately on this Earth Day, we're going to close with a prayer based on Laudato Si, which is the encyclical that Pope Francis wrote. So lots to do today with Earth Day and with Pope Francis and the intersection of the two. So I said yesterday in my post, if you're looking at my written post that I do, during the week, I said that one of the features, and I'm starting kind of a new way of organizing that, one of the features that I will be doing each day that I post is a bit of my story, my journey, my faith journey, because I am in the process of writing a book on it. And it's not going to just be my story. I think it's interesting. Perhaps you will too. It's going to be bigger than that, because it is going to also weave in the stories of four different spiritual guides, mentors, if you will, that I have had that have really guided my faith and my spirituality. And one of those that I said was the Jesuits, and Pope Francis, as you well know, was a Jesuit. And I said this to a friend yesterday, and I mentioned this in my writing, and I wanted to expand upon it a little bit more here, is that Pope Francis made it possible for me to keep teaching representing the Catholic faith much longer than I would have been able to otherwise. Because I believe in the gospel. I believe in care for creation. I believe in the love that Pope Francis talked about and showed to people, right? I'm remembering that very first, I think it was like his first week that he was Pope, during Holy Week on Maundy Thursday, when he went and washed the feet of, I think it was prisoners that particular year. And this was a tradition that he continued year after year. That's what I wanted to teach in my theology, in my religion classroom. The thing was, is that wasn't exactly the curriculum. There was other things that the curriculum demanded, and I didn't always pay as close attention to that. And also, especially over the last number of years, as Donald Trump was rising, as MAGA was rising, and so forth, more and more students were resistant. And especially some students' parents were resistant to the gospel of life, the gospel of loving our neighbor as ourselves. And knowing that Pope Francis was there in the Vatican as the Pope allowed me to always refer to him. So whenever I would talk about the things that were essential to the gospel, I could point to Francis and say, well, the Pope says that. The Pope is doing this. And I frequently showed my students clips or read excerpts from his speeches or his writings to them. And honestly, y'all, if he had not been Pope, if it had been a different Pope who didn't have his vision, his charisma, his care, I think I would have left a lot earlier than I did. And I ended up making it 18 years. My last year was 3 years ago. And by that point, it was too much, even with Pope Francis. So the impact that he had on me as an individual was multiplied in innumerable ways at the global scale. And I would like to point your attention to two articles on a website that I think is really going to be your best and my best website as we go through this next period. The period in which the Pope will have his funeral on Saturday, or then beginning in a couple of weeks, there will be the conclave. The website, and I'll put a link to it here, to these two articles in the message here and the notes here. It is called National Catholic Reporter. The key there is reporter, because there's another website that sounds kind of like that, but it's National Catholic Reporter, and it is ncronline.org. All right. Again, it'll be there in the notes, but that is where you can find it. And there's two articles that caught my attention. They have a whole page about Pope Francis. And the first article talks about, it says, Pope Francis leaves legacy as environmental conscience for the world. And some wonderful pictures of him in there. But it says that the encyclical, which is Laudato Si, which incidentally I will be writing when I post in my written post excerpts from Laudato Si. So if you ever wanted to read it, you can kind of read it in like serialized form, I suppose. But this is what the writer says. The encyclical, one of the highest forms of papal teaching, elevated the idea of integral ecology, which means everything is connected, and gave new voice to liberation theologian Father Leonardo Boff's plea to, quote, hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. It recognized that justice for the natural world and animal species is inseparable from justice for marginalized human communities. Wow, there is a lot there. And he really broke ground with this. The article goes on to say that Laudato Si inspired new movements and commitments, including through the Laudato Si action platform that Francis established. It renewed support for efforts already underway on behalf of ecosystems and the planet, particularly in religious congregations. Francis's declaration that coal, oil, and gas, the primary drivers of climate change, must be, quote, progressively replaced without delay, motivated Catholic institutions to consider renewable energy and financial divestment from fossil fuels. And then beyond the Catholic Church, Laudato Si positioned Francis as a global leader on climate change and ecological issues. And then it goes on to describe that. And Much of what I just read has links if you want to use the article to see other things about movements and so forth. So that is Francis as the legacy and about climate change and creation. There's another article here that is a little bit of inside pool, if you will, but I think it is symbolic. I am convinced that as the church is changing and the world is changing and politics are changing, that really the key question about countries and communities and faith communities is: are you going to be about bridges or are you going to be about walls? Well, in Francis's case, there is another little piece here, and it has to do with a door. And the story goes that there is a special door in St. Peter's Basilica that is opened during Jubilee years. And typically the Pope opens it and then the Pope closes it. Well, as the article says, and I will post it here for you, this is the first time in history that the Pope who opened it will not be able to close it because of Pope Francis's death. So I imagine someone will close it, whoever the next Pope is, but wouldn't that be awesome if they just left it open as the legacy to Francis? Because that's another metaphor. Besides a bridge or a wall, it's a door. And that's even one Jesus used, right? And if the door is open, it is welcoming and it is hospitality. Come on in. But if it's closed, that means something completely different. So I really hope that this door stays open as a symbol to what I think Francis tried to do. He didn't fully accomplish it, but he tried to do with the church. Well, let us close with this prayer, and it is a prayer for the earth. I think it is in the Laudato Si document itself. Let us offer this up on this Earth Day in memory of the great Pope Francis and for those who follow in his legacy, all of us in the work that we do. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain, at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature. As we journey towards your infinite light, we thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Good and faithful servant, Saint Pope Francis, pray for us. Blessing and good, be well.